In the AFC Championship game, the Bengals beat Kansas City 27-24 in overtime. Here's the headline. It has to be this. Joe Burrow in 2020 was the number one overall pick. And now here in year 2, he has led his team to a Super Bowl. 2 years ago, he was beating Clemson in a national championship game. Here he is now headed to a Super Bowl. It's unbelievable. It really is unfathomable that he is here doing this in this moment. It's a whole team win. Shout out to the organization. They built a good team around him, but there is no doubt at all the Bengals would not be here without Joe Burrow. And it's just incredible. I really, really love what's gone on in the story. I've got a lot more to say about it. But before we say any more about that, let's talk about, I think the reason why Kansas City lost this football game is their quarterback, Patrick Mahomes. And it's easy to point fingers at the quarterback. We're going to do that here. But a lot of people I've seen are critical of the play calling, Eric Bieniemy. They didn't run the ball enough. I mean, remember, Kansas City ran the ball for 139 yards, something like that. I mean, they I think that's exactly what it was. And the reality is that you live or die with your superstar quarterback. I don't think Kansas City should have any regrets putting the game on the shoulders of their quarterback, Patrick Mahomes. The problem is he made a lot of bad decisions at the end of regulation, at the end of the second half. And, I mean, for example, they're on the goal line with 0 timeouts, 9 seconds left before halftime. He throws a ball out wide to Tyreek Hill in the flat rather than throwing the ball to the end zone. Tyreek Hill gets tackled short of the end zone. Time expires, halftime. They don't get any points before halftime. That's on the quarterback. You can't throw the ball there. That's a bad decision. The ball has to go to the end zone or out the back of the end zone, and you got to leave time on the clock for a field goal. He didn't do either of that. And he was even, Patrick Mahomes is trying to take a timeout when they didn't have any. He didn't know the situation. That's a massive problem. End of the fourth quarter. Kansas City had the ball first and goal on the 5-yard line. Patrick Mahomes took 2 bad sacks in a row. Led to 4th and goal from the 26-yard that made an easy field goal into a 44-yard field goal. Luckily, they made that and did tie the game. But, I mean, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 6, multiple times, Patrick Mahomes was holding onto the ball way too long, forever, and taking sacks. And that's bad quarterback play. And I praise Patrick all year. Probably from week 6 or 7 on, when he started turning a corner. And I thought Patrick Mahomes really made a massive, massive improvement this year, where he started taking what the defense gave him. He wasn't forcing it, wasn't holding on to the ball too long, taking checkdowns. And early in the game, he has a checkdown in this game where he swings it out wide to his swing route. And I'm like, okay, here we are. It's Patrick Mahomes. Something happened to him in this football game. I don't know what it is, but there was a moment where he stopped taking the checkdown. He stopped being patient. He held onto the ball too long. He forced the ball into coverage. He's making bad decisions left and right. And I don't know why he regressed in this football game, but he did. And, the loss is on Patrick Mahomes, in my opinion. You live or die with your franchise quarterback, your superstar, your MVP. And for whatever reason, he was just making bad decisions left and right. And I don't think you have any regrets on that, right? When you have a superstar quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, you want to have the game in his hands, but he did not deliver in that moment. And that's cliche to say, but go watch the film. It's over and over and over again. You're like, dude, get the ball out of your hands. Don't take that sack. Don't force that throw into coverage. And that's what happened from what I saw on Sunday. I got a ton of respect for the Bengals defensive end, Trey Hendrickson. Sam Hubbard actually had 2 sacks in the second half. Great for him. But Trey Hendrickson got obliterated in the first half by Kansas City's left tackle, Orlando Brown. I mean, Trey Hendrickson in the first half was on his back multiple times. I think the word is pancaked. Getting pancaked on his back where Orlando Brown is laying on his chest. And the fact that he kept fighting and fighting and fighting, and finally in the second half he broke through. He got 1.5 sacks in the second half, and Trey Hendrickson is a guy who just kept fighting and fighting and fighting, and eventually, I was fixated in the first half on this matchup, Orlando Brown versus Trey Hendrickson, and he was getting, pardon my French, he was getting his ass kicked over and over again. And gosh, it was cool to see Trey Hendrickson really get going in the second half and just keep fighting and eventually breaking through and eventually, chasing down Patrick Mahomes, getting that hard-earned sack and a half. I haven't even mentioned the fact that Kansas City was actually up 18 points. They were up 21-3. And Cincinnati came back and won this football game. They had 21 unanswered points, took a 24-21 lead. And this is a full team effort, right? The offense, 21 unanswered points, that's great, but the defense did not allow Kansas City to score. They give up 3 touchdowns in the first half. And in the second half, they did not allow Kansas City to score until the final moment when they kicked the game-tying field goal to make it 24-24 and send it to overtime. To shut down Kansas City for that long, a quarter and all the third quarter, most of the fourth quarter, unbelievable. That's really good defense. That's impressive to me. The Bengals won in overtime. By the way, Casey got the ball first in overtime. And Cincinnati's defense stopped Kansas City. Got it, had one that should have been picked off by Eli Apple. Later got one he got tipped and picked off by Bell. I mean, gosh, that's a defensive performance. And the defense in Kansas City, or in Cincinnati, excuse me, we're going to talk a lot about Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is amazing, deserves a ton of praise, but you got to be clear on one thing, too. I guess 2 things, really. This team has a ton of confidence. The Bengals have nothing to lose. They don't feel like they shouldn't be here, really. And so they're playing with house money. They're just happy, carefree, balls to the wall, nothing to lose. So the confidence is at an all-time high for this football team. But on top of that, this defense is playing very, very well. And you got to give, Kate Blackburn, Duke Tobin, the people that built this football team and signed free agents and made moves and brought in players to build this defense. I mean, it's really, I have been very, very critical in the past of Cincinnati's front office. And this is a huge win for them. Not only going to a Super Bowl, but the way they built this team and built a good defense is something that for a long time I didn't have confidence they could do. And here they are. They've done it. They've achieved that. And, my message to the Rams in the Super Bowl is that you just cannot allow Cincinnati to hang around. If you allow them to keep it close in the fourth quarter, are you telling me you are not afraid of Joe Burrow in a 3-point game or a tie game in the fourth quarter? Because I would be if I was a Rams fan. And, I love Joe. Joe Burrow is a great leader. He's got a ton of swagger. He had this cool moment post-game where, I think Diana Rossini's her name, was trying to, I probably got the name wrong. I think it's who it was, but someone, whoever the post-game interviewer was trying to interview Joe Burrow. And Joe is not ignoring her rudely, but definitely I'm not going to, the interview is not as important to me right now as it is to congratulate my teammates and share this moment with my teammates. And he's like, look, I got to connect with my guys. So he's doing an interview kind of, but he's also hugging people, celebrating, getting in answers to questions as often as he can. And shout out to whoever interviewed him. She was very patient, which is, I think, exactly what that moment needed to allow Joe to celebrate and get a question out of him when you could. And that's good leadership in my mind. A quarterback, a young guy who is just, he's like a shepherd leading of a flock. I know it's kind of a religious reference, I guess, but when you're the leader, it's your job to connect with everyone and have great people skills and build rapport with everyone. And that moment was about his teammates, not about him doing an interview. And that's very cool to see that from Joe Burrow. I kept smiling and smiling and smiling, watching that moment, watching him win, go to a Super Bowl. Blew my mind. It's amazing. Now, I do have a concern here. And I am being very, very overly cautious, right? But I'm sharing with you something now that could become a problem in 5 years from now. So, look, I'm not saying it's a problem yet. I'm not even saying I'm seeing signs of a problem yet. Although I will say, here's what I'm going to say. As you get more famous, it's really easy to buy into your own hype. And as someone who, I got a pretty good life. I live in Hawaii. I talk about sports for a living. It's easy to go, oh, yeah, I'm the shit. I'm awesome. And when you got people, a comedian I love, like one of my favorite comedians, reach out to me on Instagram the other day. And I'm like, oh, my gosh, I love you. I'm a fan of you. And he followed me. That's crazy. And he's like, I love your podcast. And that blew my mind. And in those moments, it's really easy to buy into your own hype and think your own shit don't stink. Pardon my French. I'm cussing a lot this episode. I don't mean to. I'm doing my best. I think it's warranted here. And when you have a ton of success early on, it can really affect you. And you either, I've had to work really hard. I'm trying to get more gracious and be even more kind than I've ever been, right? I think it's working. But I think what happened to a guy like Aaron Rodgers, remember, won a Super Bowl early in his career. Then he won, 3 MVP awards. And I think the success and that went to his head. And he kind of built a massive ego. And Aaron isn't great on accountability. Aaron Rodgers loves to, hey, I'm awesome. You failed, not me. And as the legend of Joe Burrow is growing and rappers are reaching out to him, he's getting all this notoriety, all this fame. He's becoming, frankly, Joe Burrow's like a mythological figure. He's the next Tom Brady. It's amazing. And I hope as the years go on, Joe Burrow has people in his corner. I'm sure it is. His family, his dad, him are really close. But I hope he has people who help him keep his ego in check and remind him that, hey, man, just because you're on top of the world, you're amazing, doesn't mean you're better than anybody else. And I love that confidence Joe Burrow has. But he does walk that fine line between cocky and confident. And you got to be careful with that. And it works well right now. He uses confidence. I love the outfits. I love the chains. I love the cigars. I love everything about Joe Burrow. I really do. He's probably, now that Tom Brady looks like he's going to retire, I'm like, who's my new favorite quarterback in the NFL? Joe stinking Burrow. He's awesome. And I worry, though, that in a few years, we saw Tom Brady talk about this in Man in the Arena, that there was a moment after his third Super Bowl where he had to kind of readjust his mindset and really, take care of who he was and try to drown out the noise and focus on football and family and try to, and Tom Brady's talked about how his family really kept him grounded. I don't know what's going to be the grounding factor for Joe Burrow, but I know that it's tempting and easy to go, all the attention, I'm the man, it's awesome, and I'm really hoping Joe Burrow, in like 5 years from now, hasn't taken that road and is still the guy who's celebrating with his teammates and not blaming anybody and the rallying leader that he needs to be. I have confidence that he will be. I'm not worried about Joe Burrow necessarily. But we're seeing the early signs of a guy who could turn the way of Aaron Rodgers, can go from confident to arrogant. And we'll see where he's at in 5 years from now. I just don't think that he will be having this problem, but I want people to be aware of that now, because we'll see where Joe's at in 5 years. He wins a Super Bowl, beats the Rams in year 2. Dude, how more on top of the world could you be? And I just know that he's not that young, but that's a big moment for a young guy. And I really hope that he keeps his ego in check as the years go on, because he's going to succeed and succeed and succeed. And he's so impressive. And so I just am putting that tendril out there now. Now, one thing I want to praise Joe Burrow on is that I have never seen a guy handle a messy pocket better than Joe Burrow. People talk about Tom Brady, and Tom Brady was a legend for years of sliding in the pocket, being very calm. But Tom Brady would slide from maybe a free rusher, step up, and then be in a good pocket again. Joe Burrow hasn't really been in a clean pocket during the entire playoff run for Cincinnati. He's had bodies around him. He's been dodging defenders and throwing the ball as he's getting hit or as a guy takes out his ankles or whatever. There's bodies around his feet constantly. And it's been no problem to Joe Burrow. Again, I've never seen a guy who handles a messy pocket as well as Joe Burrow has. And there's a play where he escaped a sack not once but twice from Chris Jones, where he dodged the sack. Then Chris Jones dove for his legs. He kind of hurdles and gets away from that. It's unbelievable what he's doing. It's almost like Joe Burrow has slowed down time and is like, where's he going? Oop, oop. It's like the movie Click with Adam Sandler. It's unbelievable. And on top of being great at handling pressure, whether it's bodies around him, he also is really good at recognizing a blitz and seeing, okay, they're bringing more defenders here. My best matchup is T. Higgins 101 to my left or right or whatever it is. He's great at the line of scrimmage, at changing protections. There's a couple plays against Kansas City where he made a change at the line, handled a blitz, stayed alive in the pocket, threw a huge ball downfield, and you're like, that's just not only great awareness and good pocket presence, but also him being really dialed in at the line of scrimmage, understanding protections, understanding where to move, the protection and how to pick up a blitz. It's crazy to me. And I remember when people said that, Trevor Lawrence was the best quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck. And when people said that, this time last year during the draft cycle, I remember saying, what about Joe Burrow? Joe Burrow destroyed the SEC in college football. He dominated Alabama, won a national championship, won a Heisman. Now he's in a Super Bowl. To me, Joe Burrow is the best quarterback prospect I've ever seen. And the stuff he was doing against teams in the college football playoff his senior year, it's better than anything Trevor Lawrence did in college, in my opinion. And I want to really give credit to the transformation, because two of the craziest transformations I've ever seen in my life. Chris Pratt going from the fat guy in Parks and Rec to this movie star has been an incredible, unforeseen change. How many people are the Chris Pratt character in a TV show and then they never go anywhere, never do anything? Credit to him. It's a huge transformation. And then the transformation Joe Burrow has made from year one at LSU, where Joe Burrow was probably, after his first year at LSU in college, was basically going to be a sixth-round pick. Like, he was not highly regarded by the NFL at all, and deservedly so. And then he worked his tail off and made a lot of changes and got better and better and better and became the guy we're seeing today. The confident, incredibly talented, very accurate, very cerebral quarterback he is today. And the work Joe Burrow put in is something no one can ever take away from him. I know we look at him as a legend now, but don't forget where the guy started. Nebraska wouldn't take him. He wanted to go to Nebraska at a high school. So where his whole family played college football. They didn't want him. And Ohio State said, we're going to go with Dwayne Haskins. He got hurt, sure, but Ohio State chose Dwayne Haskins over Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow had to transfer out of his college to go get playing time. And again, Nebraska didn't want him a second time. They said, we're going to stick with Adrian Martinez. We think Adrian Martinez is better than Joe Burrow. And so Joe Burrow goes to LSU and just goes through this crazy transformation. And where he started to where he is now is unbelievable. And the work ethic and the stuff Joe Burrow has done to get where he is unbelievable. And I really want people to appreciate that journey and the work he's done because it's amazing to me. Okay, there are two funny moments I want to talk about from the Kansas City-Cincinnati game. The halftime show was terrible. The broadcasters were getting drowned out by some kind of country concert going on right behind them, and it's like, you could see Boomer Esiason was trying to keep it together, but he was the only guy that kind of broke on screen. He's like, what are we doing here? Like, why are we even trying this right now? I can't hear the guy next to me because there's this crazy concert and the speaker's literally right behind him. That was hilarious and funny to me. Kind of a blunder for a TV moment. And then there was a moment where Tony Romo made a very small joke that went over everybody's head, I thought. Certainly Jim Nantz didn't pick it up. Tony Romo was talking about how at the end of a game, you don't want to take too much time because sometimes people might drop a key snap on maybe a field goal. And nobody laughed at that. Nobody seemed to get it. But I'm like, do you hear Tony Romo? He's roasting himself for the day where, in the Cowboys-Seattle playoff game years ago, Tony Romo dropped a key crucial snap on what would have been, an important, I think it was actually an extra point or field goal. I don't remember. It's been so long now. But he dropped this massive snap. It cost him the game. And I really thought that was kind of a funny throwaway line from Tony Romo that nobody picked up on it. I'm like, man, dude, he's just slinging joke after joke, and people just aren't picking up on it. And I thought that was a funny moment from Tony Romo. So, congrats to Cincinnati, and no shade against Kansas City. I thought they had an amazing year. I'm really, really sad because I think that the trio they have, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, and Patrick Mahomes, is incredible. I don't know how many more years we have with them, and they both, Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, had a couple drops in this game. I thought that this was not their best game together as a trio. And I encourage everyone, every time you get an opportunity to watch those three play together, you never know what the future holds. We don't know how much longer they have, how many more years they have together. And when I watch them, I marvel at what they could do together. And I encourage everyone to appreciate those three guys because what they do in Kansas City is incredible. I am very, very excited to see Cincinnati go to a Super Bowl. Super Burrow. It's going to be awesome. And I can't even believe they're here. It's an amazing, amazing turn of events. And I'm so excited to see what happens.